All right, guys, we got take two of the fantasy preview for week 4. Couldn't quite get it done on the first take this time. We're going to have to try it again. So here we go. Week 4 matchup preview. You got the glorious one, your commissioner versus Steve Hunts Johnson. A truer team name is tough to find, but there is one truer team name in the league, and that is Trubisky is the GOAT. Thank you for finally acknowledging that, Mers. Now, this matchup is interesting. Jared and I, of course, completed a blockbuster last night in which I acquired Odell Beckham Jr., as well as Justin Tucker and Phillip Rivers, all of which should help me this week to knock off Tony Jr. But Tony Jr., Kirk Cousins, and Adam Thielen tonight at the Rams, I'm not sleeping on them. I think without Peters and Talib, I think the Vikings are going to struggle to run the ball, and they're going to go to the air. And they might find some success there. So Cousins and Thielen could have a big game against me. Tony, quite frankly, doesn't have a tight end right now. Eric Ebron's probably not going to play. Even if he does, he's playing against Tony's god-awful defensive decision. I mean, we're talking about a Houston defense that has cumulatively scored 14 points on the season, which is, by the way, about the Bears' defensive floor. So not looking good for Tony there. Kareem Hunt at Denver is on just about every fantasy bust list you can find for this week, and rightfully so. He's not going to do anything. David Johnson, yuck, man. If he can't do it at home against Seattle, it's time. It's time to just bench him. You got to move on. So I think that Tony's going to have a decent week here. Again, he's got a strong team. From my side of things, I get Leonard Fournette back this week. I get Doug Baldwin back this week. Doug might not see the field for me, though, because I have my man, Kerryon Johnson, the best, biggest, strongest Johnson in football. Kerryon Johnson gonna dominate the Cowgirls. The Cowgirls are missing Sean Lee. It's ugly out there. Kerryon is gonna dominate. So my bold prediction: Kerryon goes for $130 and a touchdown. His full-on Kamara-like coming out party continues, and he leads me to the W over Tony Crybaby Jr. Matchup number 2, the Richard Mixons, which is, of course, Steve versus Trubisky is the GOAT, which is, of course, Mers. And Mers, honestly, has really pulled off a pretty good trade with Joe. Absolutely roasted Joe on a trade. Got Dion Lewis and O.J. Howard for basically Chris Ivory. I mean, it was basically a free deal. John Brown, by the way, not practicing. He's injured. Joe, we'll get to that. But, man, what a bad trade. Chris Ivory's not a guy I would be looking to play even if Shady went down. So Andrew Luck, really tough to play him, although he gets an easy matchup against a bad defense at home against the Texans. It's tough to play him the way he's looked. He's dinking and dunking. It's really bold to sit Roethlisberger in prime time at home in a divisional game. The Ravens defense is banged up. Roethlisberger has scored 58 fantasy points over the last 2 games. He's killing it right now. I'd have a hard time sitting him, but if you want to sit him, sit him. Russell Wilson, if he struggles at Arizona, it's panic time, Steve. But, I mean, that's kind of a common theme with your team. It's panic time. You're not scoring any points. These guys just suck. Antonio Brown is the clear number 2 to Juju Smith-Schuster. It's not even a question anymore. Keenan Allen is now banged up, and he looked like the backup option to Mike Williams before getting hurt. Let's not forget, Mike Williams was drafted early first round, much higher draft capital than Keenan Allen, and you can kind of see why he looks better than Keenan Allen. If Allen does play, that's a great matchup at home against the Niners team that's going to be missing Richard Sherman. So Keenan Allen may find an elusive touchdown this week if he does play, but we'll see. Never good when a wideout pops up late with a knee injury on the injury report. Never good. Alex Collins at Pitt. Boy, man, Alex Collins, I don't know, man. It's ugly. It's real ugly. Sony Michel is the lead back for the Patriots. So, I mean, you kind of lucked out with Burkhead getting hurt, but the problem with Sony Michel is he's not very good. I mean, he's getting like, what, 3 yards a carry? Is he even getting that? I mean, he kind of sucks. So the whole Patriots offense is in disarray. Their offensive line is terrible. They should have never gotten rid of Nate Solder. Awful decision by the Patriots. You're looking at Tyler Boyd potentially being your best play this week at Atlanta, a guy you just picked up in free agency. The problem is the guys you cut would have been a much better play than Boyd. Chris Carson would have been real nice to have at Arizona this week. I don't know what you're doing, Steve, but I'm going to give Mers the win here. Ezekiel Elliott's going to go ham against the Lions and lead Mers to a W. So Mers gets off the schneid this week. King of the North versus Buck F. and Allen. Tony Sr. versus Jared. So Jared's team does not look all that imposing right now. Basically, he's going to need Drew Brees to throw up another 35-plus pointer to have a chance here. It very well could happen. The last time the Giants and Saints stepped onto the field in New York, there was 13 touchdown passes thrown in that game, 7 of them by Drew Brees. That was, of course, the game Joe was smart enough to bench Drew Brees. 7 touchdowns on his bench. So I look for Brees to shred the Giants once again. Gronkowski's going to get back on track against the Dolphins. Lamar Miller is barely playable every week. I mean, he should be a flex option, but for Jared, it's his RB1. I don't see how Senior doesn't win this matchup and win it by a mile. Chris Carson going to have a very positive game script at Arizona. He's going to be running all over them. Aaron Rodgers at home against Buffalo is probably the top quarterback play of the week. And Will Fuller, the connection with Watson is real. So Melvin Gordon in a dream matchup at home against the Niners, by the way, too. Just doesn't look good for you, Jared. I'm going to go ahead and give the win to Senior. My bold prediction here, Chris Carson is going to go for 16 or more fantasy points at Arizona and get you the W. So Chris Carson paying dividends for Senior already. Bold, I just got to say, Steve, bold strategy, cutting your highest scoring wideout and your highest scoring running back. We'll see if it pays off. Severely doubt it, though. All in the Ramley versus Saquon D's nuts. So we have Reese versus Joe. And, Joe is he's doing okay. He's actually projected to win this one. The Reese is starting pretty much his whole team tonight on short rest against Minnesota. It's a bold strategy. It might pay off for him, but I don't expect that Rams D to do that well in this one. I think the Rams D is going to have some trouble. He's going to need him to get into the end zone to have a good performance out of him. As far as on Joe's side of things, LaShawn McCoy and Chris Ivory, I don't care which one of them's playing. You don't want any part of it. Those guys suck. It was absolutely foolish of you to give up Dion Lewis. He was a guy you could have played. I know he had 2 down games in a row, but Dion Lewis, I love the way they're utilizing him, and he's got better days ahead. Mike Evans is not going to do anything because, quite frankly, the Bucs aren't going to have time to run those deep routes down the field, and Mike Evans is not a screen or slant guy. He's going deep down the field. Not going to have time. I look for them to try and get him some targets, but Evans is going to have a horribly inefficient, bad game. Michael Thomas at the Giants, not as great as you think. Now, while I do think Brees is going to feast, let's not forget that the Giants have the jackrabbit, Janoris Jenkins, one of the best shutdown corners in the league, and he's going to be following Michael Thomas up and down the field. Now, it's not going to stop Michael Thomas, but it should slow him down. I don't think you're going to get another 180-yard game. I don't think you're getting 2 touchdowns. I think you should temper your expectations, maybe 80 yards, and he'll probably still find a way to get a score because Michael Thomas is awesome. Let's not kid ourselves here. This guy's really good. as far as my bold prediction in this game, I predict that both of your defenses do terrible. You guys are going to be lucky to get 5 points out of your defenses. I'm going to say you guys don't combine for 10 out of your defenses. I'm going to go ahead and give the win to Joe here. I think Reese loses his second one in a row here and starting to go on a bit of a skid if you lose this one, Reese. Yeah, might need to look at doing something different than just starting Rams if you lose back-to-back here. Now, the last matchup we have is Follow the Buzzards versus I Pity Murs in a grudge match. Rich, of course, just been hammering Jason all season long, just bitch slapping him in the group chat. Jason's got no answer for Rich. He wants no part of this matchup. He's not even attempting trash talk in this one, and he shouldn't because it is ugly. Matt Ryan at home against the Bengals is a great matchup, but it is bold to sit Brady. You got more courage than I do, buddy. I'll give you that. Sitting Brady at home against the Dolphins is gutsy. So I'm not saying you're wrong, though. Matt Ryan looked really good last week. He's got a ton of weapons, and he's in a home game against a bad defense. So take that for what it's worth. Don't think you can go wrong either way. Love what Jason's doing at quarterback. Baker Mayfield, first career start at the Raiders. I love it. Baker Mayfield could surprise. That's my bold prediction, is that Baker Mayfield is going to be the highest scoring quarterback in this matchup. The kid looks good, man. He's got a ton of weapons. He's real. He's the real deal. From Rich's side of things, Alvin Kamara, absolute freak beast. Matt Breida, if he plays, is going to be an animal, and he was a steal, especially with C.J. Beathard. There's a little-known fact, C.J. Beathard, when he's been on the field, has targeted running backs at a higher rate than any quarterback in history, ever. He always throws to the running back. Who's the running back that catches passes? It's Matt Breida. You're talking about a guy that was averaging 9 targets to Carlos Stone Hands Hyde last season. So Breida, he's getting 9 targets a game. He's got some serious value. Once again, Reese got ripped off in that deal. Horrible deal. Diggs ought to have a day against the Rams because they don't have Talib and Peters. I got to give the nod to Rich here, guys. I'm sorry. Rich is going to pull off this W, be 2-2, and Jason wants no part of Rich. And it's just going to continue like that. It's like a Josh Allen versus the Minnesota Vikings situation. They don't want any part of it. I'm giving Rich the win, and that's what I got for you guys this week. I will see you on Tuesday with the recap.